Welcome back to the final video of this series on ARM versus x86 comparison. Now in this video I'm going to speak some things in favor of x86 that just make ARM seem worse than it. Now I've been defending ARM and I'm getting in favor of it since the last 5-6 videos on this series. But things should go the way they are going currently because it is all headed in the right direction. It's nothing wrong. It's just my thinking that desktop processors are increasing pollution and electricity bill and all that. But that nowadays, to me at least, seems very stupid to think about it. Now let me get to the point. I want to tell you that even though a desktop chip might be less efficient and consume a lot of power and still not do the work that's proportional to the power it consumes, it still makes sense to run it on extra power because the experience of using a desktop actually pays off for that. The desktop gaming and then browsing on a desktop, it has a different experience than using it on an iPad or a smartphone that consume less power and are still very fast. Now you can argue the way I did by saying that playing PUBG or watching a YouTube video or browsing the internet, all these activities consume more power on a desktop. And even though the exact same thing is done, a desktop requires more energy to do the same amount of work. But it still actually makes sense to put more energy and run that desktop to do the same thing. And yes, the same thing goes for laptops as well. It actually makes sense because a different operating system makes up for a different experience and that has a different UI. And actually I prefer using a desktop instead of a smartphone just because of the user experience it offers to me, or say the user who is operating it. A YouTube user by the name of Baymax YouTube actually cleared my doubt that x86 actually is as efficient as ARM by clearly stating that Ryzen 5 4500U is as efficient as Apple A12Z Bionic. And even though there are problems in that comparison, like trusting on a benchmark which is not accurate, there are problems, but still it shows up that practically x86 and ARM are at the same efficiency level. If they have the same number of cores and the same lithography, they are manufactured in the same year and they are oriented for the same thing, then it actually starts to become clear that x86 and ARM is the same efficiency. Also, when I and that person were talking, it became clear that the TDP has to increase in a progressive manner to increase the performance in a linear manner. Even though the lithography is the same, the TDP has to increase in a progressive manner to increase the performance in a linear manner. Thus the efficiency decreases like a curve like this. Thus you might observe that an Ryzen 5 or a Core i5 processor is more efficient than a Core i9 Threadripper. That the thing on the top that is has a very low efficiency. Even i9 seems very efficient in front of it. So those are some of the things that some of the misconceptions that I had, and that's why I was complaining like stupid about x86 desktop processors. And yes, you have to keep in mind that it's absolutely senseless to compare ARM GPUs and x86 GPUs because the GPUs on x86 are ages ahead of the GPUs on ARM, those found in iPhones and iPads. Those are so much weak when you compare the desktop graphics, like those AMD Radeon series and the NVIDIA RTX and whatever. So okay, then that pretty much wraps it up for this entire series. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If so, then consider giving me a like. So okay, then that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching and goodbye.